Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to World Religions. This is for fall 2020. My name is Kim Mollis, and I will be your instructor. So, at the time that I am recording this, which is around August 10th or on August 10th, school doesn't start for like another 2 weeks. And Penn State hasn't finalized some of the COVID statements within the syllabus, but I still like to record this ahead of time so that you have access to it at least a week before class starts and are able to, email me or text me with any questions. So we're going to walk through the syllabus, but there might be some slight modifications by the time that the class actually starts. And I'll say more about that. Um, Also, at the time that I'm recording this, I currently have one section of World Religions that has 25 students in it. And that's way too many for one section. And the classes online are usually capped at 15. So I was just informed today, after asking for this, that the one class is going to be split into two sections. But this welcome video will work for both sections. It's the exact same class, but what will be nice is they will be capped at 18 students. And since you'll be doing a lot of discussion posts and having conversations with each other on discussion boards on Canvas, it's going to be way more manageable with 18 or less students in a section. 25 is a lot more reading and posts for you to look at and consider engaging with than 18. And hopefully, maybe there'll be even less than 18 and it can feel more like a collaborative thing. But anyways, so what we're going to do is walk through the syllabus. Um, so at some point while you're watching this, I hope that you consider pausing the video and making sure that you have a copy of the syllabus in front of you. So you can either print it out, and I know many of you probably don't have access to a printer, so some of you might be able to access it on your phone while continuing to view this video. Or another option is to just keep the video running on YouTube, and then just pull up the syllabus on your screen and you'll hear my voice. You won't see me, but you can hear my voice as we go through the syllabus. I do like in the welcome video to actually record myself so you can actually see me and know like who I am and be able to picture who I am at least. Otherwise, it's just kind of weird just having an online instructor that you never see. But throughout the lectures and whatnot in the class, you will not see me. You'll hear my voice a lot, but you won't see me. So, a little bit about me again. My name is Kim Mollis. My preference is that you call me Kim. That's my preference. So, I would appreciate it if in all of our correspondence you call me Kim. My educational background that might be relevant for kind of understanding where I'm coming from teaching this course is that I have a bachelor's degree in philosophy and religious studies, and then also a master's degree in religious studies, as well as a master's degree in the humanities. And I'm currently actually pursuing a third master's degree in social work and hoping to be a therapist. I've been teaching as an adjunct instructor at Penn State Beaver, but also in Chicago earlier in my career for 7 years, and have taught world religions in particular literally like 15 to 20 times at this point, and I really love teaching this course and have a lot of fun with it. Also, why I want you to call me Kim is I don't have a doctorate, so I'm not Dr. Mollis. Um, and I don't like to be referred to as professor. I don't mind it if that's like if students do that. I understand it's confusing, but I'm an adjunct instructor, so my title at Penn State is lecturer, and I'm not like a full time professor at Penn State. And there was like some debates and like weirdness about like some people think like if you teach at the college level, you're a professor. And others think that to be a professor, you have to have actually like a professorial appointment at an institution, which I don't have. So I actually prefer that you call me Kim. And I also think it's just a cooler way of sort of understanding that you are adults too, young adults. Some of you might even be older than me. And I think it's important for young adults and students of all ages to be able to interact with faculty or whoever in a way that's as collaborative as possible. So I look forward to working together. In this class in particular, World Religions, I like to disclose my religious background a little bit because I think that is relevant, and it'll help like sort of sort through the way I present my information and sort of just the vibe of the class. So I was raised Catholic and went to Catholic school through high school, and do not identify as Catholic anymore. And I'll talk more about these terms in the first lecture. But I identify as sort of a hard agnostic, meaning that I don't think it is within the bounds of human knowledge to know whether like God exists or a supernatural exists. I'm interested in what some people would say like spirituality, or I'm interested in sort of like existential questions, which is why I studied philosophy. I'm respectful of a lot of religions and try to understand them and empathize with them, and I'm curious about them. And that's sort of just what brought me to wanting to study religion. I've also taught courses that were just on Buddhism, and I'm particularly interested in secular Buddhist philosophy personally. And I like to practice mindfulness meditation. um, I also am interested in pagan symbolism, which we'll talk about, and nature based religions and indigenous religions. And of course, when I went to seminary, at the time I was in seminary, I also identified as an agnostic. But it was a Christian seminary, but very progressive Christian seminary. So I know quite a bit about Judeo Christianity and the Bible, and Christian theology. But I mostly studied like ecofeminist theology, which I'll talk about later. So, sort of the vibe of this class is that it's just an opportunity to just learn about the different religions of the world. And you are encouraged to always think critically. And I understand that many students, like myself, when I was an undergrad and took a world religions course, might be in a place where you are thinking about different truth claims about reality or morality and trying to figure out your own path or what your beliefs are, or maybe questioning your beliefs or not. Any of that is totally cool and welcome in this class. But the class is, sort of looking at religion from the perspective of, what's not what's right or wrong, what are truth claims that are right about reality and what aren't. That's not really what the class is about. It's more just understanding what people in different parts of the world who come from different traditions, how do they see themselves and reality and morality, and what can we learn from understanding that. That's kind of more the focus. So it's also like we're coming from sort of an academic mindset with this class. So it's more like the writings you'll do and maybe the questions you might be engaging with each other are not always going to be like, is there a God or not? That's cool if you want to do that too. But maybe sometimes, like, if there is and you view the existence of God in this way, like this religion does or this tradition does, what are the implications of that? How would people that believe that experience themselves? And what kind of knowledge does that give us to understand that or engage with those kind of questions? So I encourage you as much as possible to just be open minded and just try to understand sort of the differences of these traditions. And yeah, so then we'll have a good time. So, anyways, one other thing that I want to mention is that uh, in online classes, aside from this welcome video and hearing my voice over lecture videos, I'll basically only be engaging with you via email or text. And so you won't hear my tone or when I'm addressing you or speaking to you. And I think sometimes students can think that I'm being harsh or stern when I don't mean that at all. I don't mean that at all. I think part of it, this is kind of funny, but I think like part of it is kind of just people have different styles when it comes to writing in text or in email. I'm a millennial, but like a sort of middling to older millennial. And I think that some of the people in my age group I've noticed don't use as many happy exclamation points or emojis or smiley faces in texts and emails the way some younger people might in emails and in texts. So sometimes you might text me or email me, and I will write a sentence with the information that I'm just trying to communicate with you, and it'll just have a period. And I'll send it, and you might think that I'm like mad or something, and I promise you I'm not. It might just be an issue of I just have a different style of communicating via text and email. So, because I think students might have felt that way once in a while when I first started teaching online. So I like to kind of say that outright because that wasn't a problem when I was teaching in person. So as I mentioned, I'm also a full-time student and doing an internship at the University of Pittsburgh, pursuing a master's degree in social work, and intend to be a therapist. So I would like to think that I am understanding of the difficulties that people face, including when it comes to mental health, especially during a pandemic, but even not during a pandemic. So I like to be as accommodating and compassionate as possible. So if there are difficulties that you are facing that are impacting your ability to do the work that you need to do for this course on time, please just communicate with me as much as you are able, and I'm going to try to work with you to help you get through this course, or maybe help you access resources or care that you might need if things are getting difficult. So please do not hesitate to just communicate with me what's going on. And I will try to accommodate you and will absolutely try to be as compassionate and validating as I can be. I wrote some things before I go into the syllabus that I want to mention. So, the class, if it were in person, we would be meeting in the classroom for about 2.5 hours a week. And on top of that, you would be doing reading assignments and writing comments and questions based on the reading that you'd be bringing to class. So if this were an in-person class, you would be spending 2.5 hours in class and then probably at least like an hour, 2, 3 hours, on top of that, just making sure that you're prepared for class. I'm going to be real. In the online class, I have to cut a lot of chapters and traditions out of this class that I normally have time when I teach it in person. And so, therefore, like, I'm not saying this outright, but this class does take a lot of time. It takes several hours a week. But possibly, depending on how quickly you read or not it's not as much work as potentially it would be if you were in person. So I think sometimes students struggle in online classes because it's hard to be self motivated, and to manage your own time. But I want you to know, like, you realistically are going to be spending at least a few hours a week completing the assignments for this class. Um, this class, like my other classes, because I know some of you have taken other classes with me, most students get A's and B's. The grade distribution for my classes are always mostly A's and B's, and then a handful of people or a couple people might fail the course. And so basically, the classes are designed where if you do the assignments, if you actually do the readings, actually watch the lectures, work on the papers in the way that I instruct you to, and just keep up with the work, you're going to do well in this course. If you don't turn in assignments and you aren't doing the readings or watching the lectures, you're not going to be learning the material, and it's going to show. You're going to have a hard time doing well in this course. So I just want to kind of be upfront about that. Okay, without further ado, we can look at the syllabus. So either have a printed version out with you, which I think most of you probably won't because most people don't have printers in this day and age, especially during COVID, or pull up the syllabus, which was attached in a welcome email that I sent you. So this syllabus, as well as all documentation, all the documents that you need for the course, are available on Canvas under Files. So you can always find the information that you need there. I will also mention, please make sure to check your Penn State email at least once a day. You can hook it up to your phone if you have a smartphone, because all of my communication with you as a class will be through email, and I always send important emails and information through the Penn State email. So on the syllabus, I have my name and my email, and I also include my cell phone number. No one's ever abused this, but if you just have a quick question or need to let me know something really quickly, that's the best way to get a hold of me, is by texting my cell phone. On Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I basically work 8 hours at an internship at a mental health clinic. And so I will not get back to you as quickly as I normally would because I'm working. But I will get back to you as soon as possible. I don't think ever go without responding to student emails or texts more than like 12 or 24 hours. Please do not text me, late at night or just past 10 o'clock, let's say. But yeah, that's the fastest way to get a hold of me. Okay, so we have the dates of the term. There's the catalog description. I did not write this. This is just like Penn State, as a statewide institution, writes these descriptions. So you can read it if you want, and some of it isn't totally accurate for specifically what we'll be doing in the class. So I will show you and walk through the course schedule and give you more detailed information. That is the required text. So you can have an e-version of that if you want. I would probably get in trouble if I said that where you could get this textbook for free on the internet. I'd probably get in trouble. I could get in trouble. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say whether it is available or not, but I am saying this, so there's that. Okay. You can also order it through Amazon or the Penn State bookstore or other places on the internet, and get a physical copy too. I know sometimes it's a lot nicer to have the physical copy. Just try to make sure that you have the 10th edition. There are differences in the page numbers that would be kind of significant if you didn't have the 10th edition, and as well as some of the content. Okay, so I have a note here under assignments. Sorry, my screen keeps fading out. That kind of just gives some general information. So it says, note, after viewing the welcome video and accessing the syllabus, students will be able to navigate the course on their own. Students can see what assignments are due every week in the course schedule of this syllabus. The instructor will send out weekly reminders of the assignments via email with other course announcements and details, but students need to be proactive about managing their time and keeping up with their coursework. If students have questions at any point, they should contact the instructor, but most questions can be answered by looking at the syllabus, the weekly emails, and thoroughly watching the course welcome video. So the course, you can just navigate and you can work ahead as much as you want through Canvas. So assignments are basically going to be due Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I think that's pretty much the whole semester. I don't think I deviate from that in this course at all. And you'll be able to complete all the assignments. You can see what's due on the course schedule of this syllabus. However, on top of that, I also will be sending out weekly reminders, usually on Fridays. I'm shooting for sending emails on Fridays, sort of just reminding you what's going to be due the upcoming week. So you can work ahead. So if you have something in your schedule that's going to make it difficult to get an assignment on time, then plan ahead and try to get that assignment done sooner than it's due. So that'll make your life like a lot easier. And again, you are free to work ahead. You are encouraged to do that if that suits you. Also, I don't want you to feel afraid to contact me if you have questions or concerns or anything, but it is just a fact that very often when students have questions, the questions are answered pretty clearly in the syllabus. So if you have a particular question about an assignment or something, it would be helpful, and it is a good skill to learn, to look for the answer yourself first in the syllabus. But it is totally possible and happens once in a while that the question is not answered in the syllabus or the emails that I send out every week. And it's not like you'll get in trouble or I'll be mad at you if you reach out to me. But I might say, as stated in the syllabus, it's here. And I don't mean to, make you feel bad or anything, but I'm just doing that so that I can help you develop the skill of looking for the information yourself first, because that's like a really important skill. But I also usually will give you the answer. I'll say as stated in the syllabus and then give you the answer. And I'm not trying to be like mean or snarky. I'm just being like, it's a fact. It's in the syllabus. I'm just encouraging you that you should look at the syllabus. Most of the answers are in there. Okay, so next we have participation. For every reading and lecture viewing assignment, you are expected to post one post comprised of at least 2 comments or questions on the reading to the discussion board. So there'll be discussion boards on Canvas in order that you will need to use them, and they'll be clearly marked for each assignment. Answering the questions posed on question slides of the lectures/PowerPoints is a good way to meet the comments/questions criteria, but will also help you prepare for the exams. So there will be lecture videos that will be linked on YouTube that I will send you the link to, like I did for this video. And in those videos, it'll be different than this one, because instead of looking at me and seeing me talking, you will hear my voice, but see my screen, and on my screen will be PowerPoint presentations. and that'll be the lectures. And it'll say how long each lecture video is. And some traditions require more than one lecture video. And at the end of the PowerPoints, and sometimes at multiple points throughout the PowerPoint, there will be PowerPoint slides that say questions. And these are questions that often ask sort of comprehensive questions about the tradition that we're covering. When we get to the time for exams, and we'll get to this in a minute, but there'll be a midterm and final exam, the questions on the midterm and final exam often are derived from the question slides of the PowerPoints and lectures. So when you are asked to do a post on a particular tradition, you don't have to do this, but a good move would be to try to answer or engage with the questions that were posed in the lectures themselves. So that's all the bold is saying. And if you do that, you're helping yourself study for the exam. Of course, you can write about other things. So anyways, occasionally you will be asked to watch a video on Canopy streaming service and will be required to make a post comprised of 2 questions or comments on each video. And I will send you the links and instructions for how to access that in that weekly email that I'll be sending to you. For each chapter covered, you must reply to one of your classmates' questions or comments from that chapter. The course schedule is in the syllabus, lays out exactly what posts are due each day for the entire semester. So again, refer to the course schedule in the syllabus, and you will always know what's going to be due every week. And then when I send you the weekly email on Fridays, it'll just provide a reminder to you and just a little bit more detail maybe. Your participation will be tracked using the attendance feature on Canvas. For every day, questions and comments are due. Typically, or in this class, like every week, like I don't deviate, as I said, typically Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You will either be marked present for the day if you post on time, late for the day if you post late, or not present if you do not post. All questions and comments need to be posted in the correct discussion board. Your questions and comments need to demonstrate you completed the assignment and provide content with which your peers can engage. And this is really, really important. This is true for all the assignments in this class. If you use outside information in your posts, you need to cite the sources you are using. Late posts are eligible for partial credit if they are turned in within 3 days of when the original assignment was due. Late posts can receive full credit within 1 week of when they were originally due if the student has an excuse for the late work. To receive partial or full credit for a late post, so no matter what, if you hand it in late, and you want either partial credit because you just did it late and it's within 3 days and you want at least half the credit, or you had an excuse, students need to email the instructor specifying exactly what post they are turning in late, and if students have excused reasons, the general reason for lateness. So if you were sick, I don't need to hear every physical detail about your illness, but just let me know that you were sick, and I will give you full credit. Students will be unable to see their peers' posts on a given discussion board until they have made their own posts. And this is 30% of your final grade. Most students are going to get a 30 out of 30 with this. You basically get full credit if you do the assignment and demonstrate that you did the reading or watched the lecture. So these posts, they need to be comprised of 2 questions or 2 comments or a question and a comment that demonstrates that you did the reading or watched the lecture, and also gives your peers something to engage with and addresses the content in some way. In the past, unfortunately, some students try to plagiarize and just copy things from the internet and turn that into their posts. I will know that you're doing that and you will not receive credit. And if it keeps happening, you will be reported to Penn State and held accountable and possibly fail the course. So do not do that. There are situations where you might be curious about something and then use the internet to try to find information about it and then want to share that in your post. That is awesome. But then make sure you cite, what information is coming from a source and what source you are using. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say about that. Yeah, so the posts are really, it's kind of exciting that you can write about whatever you want as long as it demonstrates and is relevant to the reading assignments or the lecture viewing that you're supposed to demonstrate that you did. That's it. That's 30% of your grade. I have another note in the syllabus here, and it's like in all caps, and it seems angry, and I don't mean it that way, but just that unfortunately, every semester, students have a hard time with this because they think that they miss one post and that they're suddenly failing the course. So I'm going to explain this. So note on the attendance participation tracker. Your participation grade will be calculated only based on the attendance that has been tracked so far. For example, if we are 2 assignments into the semester and you don't do one assignment, your attendance grade will be 50%. And since the whole grade is worth 30 points, you're going to think that you lost 15 points on your final grade, if that were the case. Please understand that you did not lose 15% or 15 points on your final grade by missing one assignment. The issue is that your grade so far is only based on 2 assignments. As more assignments are calculated into your attendance/participation grade, they will each be worth less, and you will be penalized less for each assignment. By the end of the semester, each participation assignment is worth approximately 1 point of your final grade. It's worth a little bit less than 1 point of your final grade. So 30% of your final grade just to keep up with the readings and lecture viewings and do them. And again, just please do not panic. I know some of you still are going to do this panic and email me, and I'm not mad, but I'm just trying to spare you the distress that if you miss assignments early in the semester, it's going to look like you lost a ton of points of your final grade because there's only 100 points in the class, but you didn't. Some students also don't like that I just make it simple and just have 100 points in the class and that each point is a percentage point of your grade. I think some students feel like when there are more points that they're not as penalized for things. And I don't really know how best to articulate that. That's just kind of like a confusing thing and a psychological thing. Like if I had 1,000 points and the participation grade was 300 and you missed like 10 points, but it's okay because there's 1,000 points. It might seem different, but it's quantitatively not different to losing 1 point out of 100. And so I think it's just having 100 points makes it as transparent as possible how much each assignment is worth and how much each point you're docked here or there, or sometimes I dock half a point, sometimes I dock a quarter of a point on the exams and stuff. When I do that, then you know exactly how much each thing is, and it's not, kind of hidden or confusing because there's like 600 points in the class. So I think it's just like more transparent that way. Okay, so the next assignment, we're doing good, is thesis papers. You are asked to write 2 papers that are required to be 4 to 6 page argumentative papers, which will help you explore areas of interest from the class. You are asked to organize your papers around a thesis statement that makes a claim, spending the entirety of each paper defending your claim. It is your responsibility to manage your time so that you spend enough time preparing and writing your papers before the deadline. There is a video on the writing process that will be immensely helpful to you in completing these papers. These are argumentative papers, not informative papers. They need to be on 2 different topics. So they can be on the same religion, but 2 different topics. But preferably maybe 2 different religions. 12-point Times New Roman font with 1-inch margins, double spaced. And then I give you information on how to submit it, which I also will give you in the weekly emails. And those papers, both of them together, are worth 30% of your grade, 15% each. So I will ask you to watch a video on the writing process, and I provide a lot of information leading up to the papers about how to do these assignments and go about them. I break down the writing process into 4 easy steps. I have a ton of writing experience. I've graded thousands of papers. I hope to make this as easy as possible and not overwhelm you, but writing is so important, and I won't give away too much that I will express in the writing video. But writing is helps you organize your thinking and helps you understand your own thinking and work through your own thinking and be able to express it, which is just absolutely vital. So I think it's really necessary to have in this class. So in addition to a video on the writing process where I break all of this down and I talk about plagiarism and citation and everything, in addition to that, in the course schedule, before the papers are due, you will have thesis statements due to me via email where I will give you feedback that'll help kind of guide you and keep you on track to make sure that you're making the progress that you need to be making in order not to be overwhelmed with these paper assignments, but to do a little bit over a few weeks. Okay, so participation 30%, papers 30%. The only other assignments are 2 exams, each worth 20%, and I think you're going to like what I'm going to say in these because they're not scary. So, midterm exam. There will be a midterm exam that will cover the content of the first half of the class. The midterm exam will consist of 5 essay questions, 4 points each. A study guide of potential essay questions will be provided a week before the exam. And as I mentioned, those question slides are usually going to include questions that you will find on the study guide and the exam. The exam will be posted on Canvas, and I'll send it to you via email, and you will have more than 48 hours to complete the exam, which is obviously open note. But this is huge, and I will say this again and again leading up to the exams. Do not use content from the internet in putting together your answers. You must work on your exam independently and without the aid of outside sources if you do not want to be held accountable for violating academic honesty guidelines for this course. Your answers should be entirely based on the textbook, the lectures, and our online discussions. Please email me your exam answers before the deadline specified in the course schedule. The idea for these exams is to show off what you know, not include the bare minimum of information required to answer each question. The purpose of an examination is to demonstrate your comprehension of the course content. You are encouraged to use definitions in the textbook and lectures, but also paraphrase and use your own words to demonstrate your comprehension. I'm not going to read the final exam because it's the same thing, but it's not cumulative. So it's on the traditions we cover in the second half of the class. So again, how the exams will work is several days, almost a week before the exam is due, you will receive a study guide of potential essay questions, 10 or 12 questions. And then the exam will be comprised of 5 of those questions that I will choose. And then you will have an additional 48 hours to email me your exams. And they're not collaborative. You need to work on your own and no using outside sources. And they're kind of comprehensive questions. So that is the work that you're going to be doing. So you're going to be doing reading assignments, posting on discussion boards, watching lecture videos, posting on discussion boards. There's a couple documentaries here and there. You will respond to each other's posts at the end of each tradition. 2 small papers. They only need to be 4 pages each. And 2 exams that you'll get a study guide of all the questions beforehand. So I'm not going to bombard you with questions that you didn't see coming. And the questions are also typically, I think pretty much every time, going to come from the lectures. So if you do the work and do the assignments, you're going to do great. And yeah, I'm excited to teach 2 sections this term. So after that, I have the grading scale. You can see it. There's 100 points in the class. Each point is a percentage point, and that is the Penn State conversion of percentages to letter grades. The grading policy, I speak about that in each assignment. I will talk more about the grading of the papers when you watch the video on the writing process. Makeup policy, late papers and exams are lowered 10% for each day they are late and not accepted after 5 days. And I say this here, but this is for everything. If you need extensions due to experiencing mental, physical, or social difficulties that make it impossible to turn your work in on time, please just communicate with me, and I'm willing to make accommodations. And I get the work back to you really quickly. So we have the classroom and school policies. So these come from Penn State. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there probably is going to be some changes between when I'm recording this video and when I actually give you your syllabus based on statements related to COVID. However, I think those policies are not going to impact us specifically, since this class is entirely remote anyways. I have an academic integrity statement about plagiarizing and what that means. And I will go into more detail about plagiarism when I give you the information you need for your papers and going into the exams. There's a disability statement that talks about Penn State's ability to welcome and accommodate students with disabilities and special needs, and provides a lot of contact information about who you need to contact to get a documented disability and get accommodations. But as I mentioned, I'm willing to make a lot of accommodations even if you don't have a documented disability within reason. So please just communicate with me. There's another policy here that talks about counseling and psychological services that gives you information. I think some of this is outdated right now because of COVID. I don't know what sort of counseling services are going to be available, at least in person, this term. However, if you are having, an issue or something, you can talk to me about it and I can get you in contact with someone that can help you find resources. And you don't have to provide a lot of detail if you don't want to. But I think also it provides Jill Bender's email and contact information, and I'm sure she still can help you find services. There's crisis services, so different hotlines and numbers that you can call if you're in some sort of crisis. So make sure you're familiar with those. And then also, this is very important, is an educational equity report bias statement that says that Penn State takes great pride to foster a diverse and inclusive environment for students, faculty, and staff. Acts of intolerance, discrimination, or harassment due to age, ancestry, color, disability, gender, gender identity, national origin, race, religious belief, sexual orientation, or veteran status are not tolerated and can be reported through educational equity via the Report Bias webpage. And then I include a link. I wanted to say explicitly that I am very concerned about social and economic justice, and that is something that I strive to be mindful about and I'm very concerned about. And I just want to make sure that we're all respectful of each other, and when we challenge each other or think critically, that we do so in a respectful way. And you have that website there for making a report, but I also encourage you, if you want, to always contact me if there are concerns about bias or discrimination. Okay, so now the final thing. I'm like losing my voice because during COVID, I don't think I've spoken this out loud this much in like months. But okay, so the class schedule is here. So Monday, you are instructed to watch this video, and I have an academic honesty contract for you to sign and then email me by midnight. And then I'm going to go through the chapters that we will cover in this course. The first chapter is called Religious Responses, and it's just an introductory chapter to the study of religion from an academic standpoint. Talks about different approaches to religion other than one's own, or if one does not have a religion, just two different traditions from an academic perspective, what that looks like. And a lot of other questions about the nature of science and the relationship between science and religion, which is something that I'm particularly interested in. And a lot of other cool topics and questions, different ways within a tradition to interpret the tradition, such as more literal and like supernatural, or more symbolic and psychological and existential. So I think that you're going to enjoy that, and the lecture is in 2 parts that are due on 2 different days. The next chapter is Indigenous Sacred Ways. Indigenous means native to a place. So indigenous sacred ways are all of the traditions of people that from people who are native to particular regions. So in particular, we'll spend a lot of time on Native American sacred ways, and sometimes the word religion doesn't really fit and is kind of problematic, so we'll just say traditions or sacred ways. Native African traditions, pre-Christian, pagan, European, indigenous traditions, different indigenous traditions throughout Asia, the Aborigines in Australia. So that'll be a cool second chapter. And then after that, we're going to learn about Hinduism, which is problematically a catch-all term coined by the British in the 19th century for census-taking purposes to categorize all of the different indigenous and some non-indigenous traditions within the subcontinent of India. And then we will, after that, talk about Buddhism. And after that, Taoism and Confucianism. I'll say Buddhism originates in Nepal and moves into India and then spreads throughout Asia into different forms, such as Zen in Japan, Pure Land Buddhism, Theravada Buddhism in Thailand, etc. And then after that, we will read about Taoism and Confucianism, which are ancient Chinese metaphysical and philosophical traditions. And then after that, kind of juicy, we're going to get into Zoroastrianism, which is an ancient, extremely ancient Persian religion, where the prophet Zoroaster lived anywhere between 1800 and 1500 before the Common Era. Um, and it's a tradition that was the first tradition to claim that there is only one God that exists, to believe that there is a battle between good and evil, to believe in an immortal soul that goes to heaven as reward or punishment, as or hell as punishment, and believed in an apocalyptic battle between good and evil at an end time. So that's an ancient Persian religion. So we're going to study that. And then we'll work on your paper, you'll have your midterm, and then in the second half of the class, we will learn about the Western traditions, which include Judaism, or the Jewish faith, Christianity, which I'll give a lot of detail in. We'll watch a documentary, and then Islam. So that'll be the three Abrahamic faiths, or major Western monotheistic traditions that claim that there is one God and all worship the same God. And then finally, at the end of the semester, this was something that students asked me to do like 5 years ago when I was teaching this course. I asked, were there any traditions or anything that you wish we had time to cover? And they said that they wish I did a presentation or a lecture on atheism. So I'm actually going to do that at the end of the semester. So there won't be a reading, and there isn't a chapter on atheism in the textbook, but I will give a lecture that you can see the times of the lectures are listed in the course schedule. So the atheism lecture is 36 minutes and 21 seconds. And then after that, you will have your final exam. You will turn in your final exam by Monday, December 14th, and then you are done. Or on Monday, December 14th, before midnight. And all of the assignments, the entire semester, are always due at midnight. So that is the outline of the course. I'm trying to think if there's anything I forgot to include in this. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or concerns. I know I disclosed a bit about my religious background in this class, but you are not required to do so if you want to. That can be super helpful. I think it's important to understand that it's super exciting that whenever I teach this class, there are students that come from all different types of religious backgrounds, and it makes the class like more interesting. But you are not, if you disclose to me, for example, that you are, my screen keeps freezing. If you are a Buddhist, I'm not going to put you on the spot to answer questions about Buddhism, but it is kind of fun and cool when students who come from different backgrounds to talk about those backgrounds. And I think it's important to say that it's okay to be critical of certain beliefs and traditions, and that's cool and that's encouraged. And that being critical and like thinking about things and challenging things isn't the same as being disrespectful. So I think that's an important thing to acknowledge too, that let's be respectful and not insult anybody or try to be cruel or intolerant, but we can also be critical about a lot of different things that we learn about these different traditions, and that's okay too. So again, if you have any questions, please reach out to me via email or text, and I look forward to working with you all this semester.